Ruffin immediately jumped off the table and started calling Martha every crazy bitch, whore, and tramp in the book, while Mary stood there pretending to be shocked. Oh!
Hello, black hole. See this brother win, man. Hey, look, what is your win, babe? What is your win, babe?
Hello there, love bugs. Hello there, bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com. Today's lookies would be our Renee scarf. I think this is number 5, and our golden camellia flower. Why don't you go over there and check it out? And if you are not already a part of our book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes you, can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's continue talking about Deliver Us from Temptation. The tragic and shocking story of the Temptations and Motown. Y'all, this book just gets better and better. On the mark, David and Eddie were sitting up on the makeup table, taking it all in as I made my case. Mary was perched under the bare ceiling light bulb in a laughable, striking position. And then there was Martha, sitting on a couch with her brother, her lips sticking out a mile and her eyes locked on Mary. Almost everybody seemed to agree that this was the only way to go. This way, everybody could at least pay their band members. All of a sudden, still staring directly at Mary, Martha said, "Well, I don't like it one effing bit, because after all, I came on this show with you people for one night. And Mary and Eddie and David have been working all week. You guys already made money." She reminded us in no uncertain terms that we had flown into town while she and her band had been forced to ride 2 days in a van. She said that as usual, she wasn't being treated fairly, and launched into a familiar old story of how Barry Gordy and the rest of everybody at Motown had abused her over the years, trying to drive her repeatedly right over the edge. She said this was 1985, not 1965. She didn't have to be second to anyone. What was going to be done about her share of the money now? She wouldn't take less, not this time. "Well, Martha," I said, "I think this is the fairest settlement we can reach at this time in view of the facts." I added that so far we had actually received very little cash from the promoter. We waited. Suddenly and miraculously, with a certain look in her eye, Martha agreed to the settlement. She understood and would be reasonable. It was done. Everybody had agreed. I was just about to end the meeting when Mary Wilson decided out of the clear blue sky to take the floor and make a rambling speech, ending with, "Well, Tony, I really think that to be fair, since Martha came out here for a one-nighter and we did get some money for the other nights, we should give all tonight's actual cash to Martha, since I'm sure Martha could really use the money." That was definitely a dig, okay? And if Martha didn't catch it, girl, you sleeping, okay? What you mean? I could really use the money. All of us could really use the money. Mary Wilson, girl, put your pussy up. Put your pussy up in the cabinet, girl. I can see that you squeezing into that Supreme gown, girl. And them heels been leaning since 3 years ago, girl. And she started carrying on with her "let's feel sorry for Martha" movement. Poor Martha. Girl, you know I always loved you. After all, Martha came all the way in an old van from home. Eddie and David immediately agreed, which didn't surprise me. Mary is right, and I think we should go for what she said. It looked like the Supreme Court of one had handed down her decision. So they went ahead and got the cash from the first show and handed it to Martha. Martha counted the money, recounted it, jumped up, put her hand on her hip, slipped the Dynel wig back on her head and said, "I'm not doing no second show. I'm going home." David Ruffin immediately jumped off the table and started calling Martha every crazy bitch, whore, and tramp in the book, while Mary stood there pretending to be shocked. Eddie just shook his head in calm disbelief and said, "Now, Martha, that's not fair. Why would you do a thing like that? Let's make a nice, happy evening of it. Now, calm down, David. Hold on." David had suddenly lurched forward and was trying to reach across and choke the shit out of Martha. "Somebody snatched the money from that bitch," David was shouting. "She's crazy. Everyone knows Martha's crazy. She been in the loony bin 4 or 5 times. She's a fucking nut. Beat her ass." I said, "Knock her out. I want my part of the mother unchy money back because she's a sick in the head bitch." Eddie and Billy were trying to hold David back and stop him from jumping on Martha, who was now screaming, "You're not getting no goddamn money. And let me tell you something right now, Murray Wilson. I went out and did my 20 minutes like my contract called for, and I got off. You went up there on that stage with your supposed to be supreme shit, and nobody told you to do all those costume changes, parading up and down the ramp like a fucking model instead of a singer. You weren't even halfway singing. It was a total disgrace, and you went over the 45 minutes you were supposed to do by at least 8 minutes. I'm out of here," she went on. "I done drove all the way from Detroit, tearing up my little bit of clothes out here, and you're not going to give me no attitude, Miss Thing." Moving on to David and Eddie, she continued, "You two went up on stage, and you're supposed to be such big headliners, and all of a fucking sudden you don't know how to come off the stage? How come you get to sing every song the Temptations ever sung and go over your 1-hour set by 20 minutes? Plus, Eddie, your voice was weak and cracking." Eddie released his grip on David, at which David jumped at Martha and snatched the money from her, tearing some of it in the process. "Bitch," David said, "you're not getting paid till you go on that stage." But Martha just rustled up whatever money she could and left the dressing room in a hurry, followed by her forever silent brother. By now, the show was more than 45 minutes late, and the crowd was getting upset. The lights dimmed. Martha's band conductor started down the ramp to tell her musicians, who had been waiting in the pit to begin, that it was time to pack up and leave. But of course, the audience took this as a sign that the show was finally going to begin, and with growing anticipation started clapping and stomping. Martha's band in the pit suddenly got up. The audience now realized there might not be a show at all. Things got ugly fast. Now, David, Captain Save-A-Ho, he was like, "I'm going to get it. I'm going to clear this up. He goes down the aisle. The spotlight is on him. My bad, y'all. My bad. So, we're having some technical difficulties around here. The promoter, they don't have none of our money. Okay? None of our money. And we trying to figure out what to do next. Okay? And on top of that, Martha is tripping. Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "I would like to apologize because the show is extremely late. However, there have been some insurmountable financial problems that we had to get straightened out with the promoter. They have not been straightened out. And at that, people started booing the promoter. They have not been straightened out to everyone's satisfaction. However, our managers, working together like a family, as all of us Motown people do, have come up with a suitable arrangement that almost everybody agreed with." But he went on. "The financial agreement was not to Miss Martha Reeves' satisfaction. And as you see, Martha has decided not to keep within the good nature of her fellow Motown recording artists, and definitely not in the good graces of all you people who have waited so long. Martha Reeves has decided that she would not perform for our second show." Boos filled the theater. People were striking matches in the darkness of the arena and chanting, "Down with Martha! Down with Martha!" David just let it go. He let the audience build their chanting for a minute or so while he stood there, perfectly erect. And when the boos reached their peak, just at the height of that moment, he threw up his right hand to the sky, arched his left knee, and launched into the impossible dream from the Broadway show, Man of La Mancha. It always amazed me how this man, who could hardly keep control of his own life, was able to confidently take control of an entire crowd of people. Later, back at the hotel, David banged on Martha's door. She, it turned out, had sat in back of the audience throughout the second show. He called her a no-singing, horse-throated tramp, a tambourine-thumping project whore, and every other name he could dream up. Yet although in the end Martha would leave Austin with cash in her pocket while everyone else left with post-dated checks of questionable value, David and Eddie weren't really mad at Martha. No one was. Instead, they were hurt. See how she treats us? See how she dogged us? What's the matter with Martha? The whole episode had become a big joke. Too funny and too typical. Crazy Martha had stayed too long at the fair and had gone and done it again. Before long, just about everyone was partying, laughing, drinking, and getting high. Toward the end of the party, there came a knock on the door. "Who is it?" somebody asked. "Dennis Edwards." "Yeah, right, sure." When I heard that name, I ran to the mirror to check how I looked, and then I ran to the door. "Why are you running to check how you look, Tony the Turtle?" "Why, TT? Why? Did you want some of that damn Dennis Edwards D?" I mean, he had to try. Nothing beats a failure but a try. When I heard that name, I ran to the mirror to check how I looked, and then I ran to the door. "Let me see if this is Mr. Edwards," I said, because if it is, he must be greeted appropriately. I opened the door. There stood a man who did indeed appear to be the one and only Dennis Edwards, but not the dashing, sophisticated Dennis Edwards who I remembered. His once sexy, muscular body had grown a little heavy with a nice stomach, and he looked like he had just come away from a hard day's work doing double shift in a factory. "Now, hold on now, TT. Hold on. Don't do that. Don't shave my Dennis." "Hi, Tony," he said, as if I had just seen him yesterday, and he bounced right in. He hadn't been heard from in quite a while, and said he was just dropping by since he happened to be in Texas. To this day, I have no idea what he was doing there. He seemed very relaxed but not very happy, and mentioned more than once that he was looking to get back on stage. Dennis had been thrown out of Otis's group of Temptations once again for showing up late too many times and partying too much. When I heard the story, it seemed like the typical Motown-style firing. Dennis had shown up for work at some rehearsal space, looked through the window to see 4 Temptations working with another singer, Ollie Woodson. Now, I like opening doors, picking up the hanky off the floor. Hey, treat her like a lady. Dennis had shown up for work at some rehearsal space, looked through the window to see 4 Temptations working with another singer, Ollie Woodson. Knew that Otis, Melvin, and others at the company were preparing Ollie to be his replacement, and walked away. I know he did know, because if they did it to David Ruffin, why the you think they wouldn't do it to your ass, Dennis? I mean, even though he is Dennis the Edwards. In fact, as Otis tells it, Ollie had already been hired behind Dennis's back, but nobody had just the common decency to inform Dennis Edwards that he had just joined the growing ranks of ex-lead singers of the Temptations. It was typical Motown. It was also typical Dennis. Who else would have just left and walked off into the sunset without saying a word to anyone about the whole thing? As long as I'd known Dennis, all he had ever wanted was to make peace and to be liked by everybody. He hated confrontation and unpleasantness. No fuss, no fight. When I heard that story, I started to understand how a guy like Dennis could have stayed with Otis's group of Temptations all those years, just biting his tongue while Otis laid down the law. Dennis didn't say anything about all of that as he joined the party. It was like old times again. Nobody went to sleep that day. already done so, please remember to like, share the Facebook, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com. Now remember this. The same people that you meet on the way up will always be the same people that you meet on the way down. My naysayers, my patron loves you babies. Have a good one.